me try it again. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Thank you. My name is Gene Jones. I'm the executive director for an organization called the Southern Waste Information Exchange. David and Tim, are we live? All right, so we're recording. By the way, I'm going to introduce everybody to David Palka and Tim Carr with the AV guys. Used that company for the last 20-some years. So if you all ever need AV people, get David's business card by the end of the day. Let me open up with just a couple of quick comments, if you will allow me. First off, let me take care of the admin stuff first. Final program is in front of you in terms of the agenda. It's over the next day and a half. Everything that you will hear or see being presented, we'll compile everything to a PDF document and send that out post-event, probably be next week. I'll get that out to everybody. Plus, we are recording it. Welcome everybody that is on Zoom, our virtual attendees. And we'll also record that and put that up on a YouTube channel and send that out to everybody. Restrooms are across the hall in the main building complex where registration is and just around the corner. All the networking breaks and so forth, tonight's reception will be in the exhibit hall itself. The mid-morning breaks, coffee, that sort of thing, in the afternoon break, also in the exhibit hall. Lunch today is going to be outside on the terrace where we had the reception last night. Handouts, we've got some handout tables, so if anybody has any literature they want to provide to all the attendees, please provide them to, give them to either myself, my son Colin, or my daughter-in-law Hannah, and we'll take care of it for you. Lastly, as you will see, the attendance, we're a small group, so the advantage for that is hopefully everybody's going to get a chance to network and meet each other to find out what everybody does. And if we have an opportunity throughout the course of the program, I'll open it up and we'll go around the room. Probably not this first session because this first session is jam-packed. I have to thank our sponsors because if it weren't for the sponsors, events like this would not take place. So if you allow me just to recognize the sponsors and please go by their exhibit booths and figure out what they all do because everybody's kind of diverse in terms of what they provide, the services. But like I said, without the sponsors, we couldn't make this possible. So with that, I'm going to get off the stage so that we can get going with our program. I want to introduce Tim Kelley. Tim is the executive director or president and CEO for the Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. So if you need a place to site a facility, you need to talk to Tim because that's what he's here to do, is to encourage people to work in the state of California, and he's got the property to do it. So with that, sir, I'm going to turn it over to you. Yes, we do. And there is a remote here for the slide.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gene. It's good to see everybody here. Welcome to California and San Diego. I just want to start off by talking about this conference and how important it is. I just really feel that you're in this business, you're in this industry for a reason, and I just feel like over the years we knew we were doing the right thing, and everybody wasn't ready for it. And so as we move forward, it's like we're getting closer and closer and closer, but what we're seeing, especially in California, because of the regulations, because of a lot of other factors that are now nationally and global, that it's really requiring that we change the way that we do business, not only as government, but also from the private sector. And a lot of that has to do with changes that are happening in the private sector that are causing people to make investments in projects. And I'll talk about a couple later on when we get to questions. But I just wanted to start off with talking about how our organization has benefited from this particular conference, because we are in a very unique location, and that's me. Sometimes I give a presentation, I go, well, I'm wearing the same coat and the same tie, so I'm glad I changed my clothes this time. And so what I do in Imperial Valley Economic Development, we're pretty diverse, and if you know what an EDC is, not all are the same. And there are things that most of us do, which is help to retain and expand industry. for financial reasons, we've really become diversified, and we do pretty much everything from marketing, site selection, permitting, help with financing, we help with workforce training. We have grants with the USDA, EPA, North American Development Bank, goes on and on and on. But I don't think there's an organization like mine that's so diverse and with such a small staff. I have about 8 staff on a regular basis, 8 to 10, and they're all cross-trained, which means that we never say no. If somebody comes to us and says, we have an idea, we have a problem, if you're talking to somebody in my office, they'll say, well, I don't have the answer for you, but I know who does. And they go, oh, no, you're going to send me to another department? No, let's go right across the hall. And so that's been very, very effective. The result of that has been we're in an area that, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, in California, which can be a challenge, an area that we can really get things done. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the way that our organization has developed. And so what do? This is how we do it. We start with site selection, incentive packaging, due diligence, land acquisition, permitting assistance, workforce development, and then we're there when you're under construction. To be honest with you, I'm rarely at a ribbon cutting because I've already moved on years before and I'm working on the next projects. So we've had a lot of successes, over $20 billion in about the last 20 years, and we have about $45 billion of projects. Average project for us is about $1 billion. We work on projects from $1 million to $10 billion, and we're moving forward on many of those right now. Many of them are at the finish line. And then we look at the top industry clusters. Our county is known for agriculture. I'll just touch on that for a bit. If you're eating spinach or lettuce in the wintertime, it's coming from the Imperial County. We grow about 95% of all spinach in the United States during the months of December, January. We pretty diversified in the crops that we grow, and we used to be big in forage, which is cotton, and now we grow no more than about 100 acres. So big changes in the industry. We have the last existing sugar refinery in the state of California, and it's closing this year, unfortunately. But we have many companies that are looking to repurpose that facility, not only for production of sugar, but also production of other commodities and one of them will be actually taking commodities and recycling them. And it'd be organic product and then converted into materials such as, replacing plastics, let's put it that way. And so made out of sugar, isn't that unique? Biofuels, data centers, food processing, renewables, recycling, manufacturing, and logistics. I want to touch on data centers. I've been working on data centers since about 2005 when people would ask me, well, what's a data center? Still today, people ask me, what's a data center? And so we know the biggest issues with data centers today. Fiber has always been an issue, but we've overcome that. There's a lot of dark fiber in our country. But is the power that's needed for the data centers. And unless we can do self-generation, then it's really going to be a challenge, and a lot of that is going to come from recycled materials. A lot of the companies want clean energy, and there's not many places you can produce clean energy. Imperial County just happens to have the #1 producer of geothermal energy in North America, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit when we get to lithium. Okay, this is Imperial County. So it's just directly east of here, and it's about 120 miles. It takes me about an hour, 45 minutes to get from my house to here. So it's a pretty short distance, very unique environment. Imperial County, where I live, is about 120 feet below sea level. The Salton Sea is about 135 feet below sea level. Then we climb up the mountains, and we come down into San Diego, and we're here at the ocean. So it's very diverse from the ocean to the desert. You go through about 5 different ecosystems, which makes the drive very unique. Every 30 minutes, you're in a different ecosystem. You're in the city, then you're in the mountains, and then you're in the chaparral, and then you're in rocks, and then next thing you know, you're in the desert, and then all of a sudden you hit this oasis called the Imperial County. You've probably heard of the Salton Sea. It's the largest body of water in the western United States. A lot of people look at Lake Tahoe and say, that's the biggest. No, this is like 3 times, 4 times bigger. So I want to talk about some of the incentives, because some of these are kind of unique. And so first of all, the RMDZ, which I think I have that. This is, I'll just talk about this really quick. This is what we're going to talk about really quick, and the Foreign Trade Zone and North American Development Bank, and I'll tell you why I have these listed. So first of all, this is a recycling marketing development zone. And a lot of people don't know about these. They're in California. They're limited to only a few. And so you'll notice that it's just a sliver in San Diego and then all of the Imperial County. Well, why is that? When Chula Vista applied for RMDZ, they wanted to be able to expand in the future. I was looking at RMDZ, and I went to the state, and they said, unless somebody gives up their RMDZ, you can't have one. And I think it was San Luis Obispo was going to be ending their contract. And so we were waiting about a year. It's going to be about 2 to 3 years, and we were waiting. And then we got a call from Chula Vista and say, we just heard you guys are looking for our RMDZ. Our application includes Imperial County. We go, what do we need to do? And they said, you need to do a program EIR on all your industrial land in the Imperial County. And we did that. So it's already program EIR. If it's industrial, it doesn't need to go through zoning. And so we can move projects there. It also allowed San Diego to kind of expand their, a little bit north and a little bit east of what their existing zone was. And if you don't know what an RMDZ is, basically, if you have a recycling plant and you're looking for product, the state has an obligation. So it's really a marketing tool. The state has will assist you in finding that material. And then they have funding. Now, they're always out of money. But they have an obligation, because they're a conduit, to be able to find funding for you. So if there's any other department that's in the state of California that has funding, they go, can we use $10 million for this project? And they'll say, yeah, we've got extra money, you take it. And that's kind of the way it works. But the key is you open a plastics recycling plant and somebody in Northern California says, we need to get rid of some plastic. They say, send it down to the Imperial County. The purpose of this is to not export our recycling or put it in landfills. It is to take that product and convert it into something that's very useful. Any questions on that? Good. So once again, we have literally thousands and thousands of acres in the Imperial County that are already zoned for RMDZ. The foreign trade zone, why would I mention this in this type of environment? Well, foreign trade zone has a lot of benefits. And if you're in a foreign trade zone, basically, you become customs. So if a product's coming into the port, San Diego or Long Beach, you don't clear customs. You go right through. So you're expedited because you actually clear customs in your site every quarter, not every day. The other thing is there's a lot of other benefits. Containers going through the port cost about $520 per container. In a foreign trade zone, it's weekly. So it doesn't matter if it's one container or 1,000 containers, you only pay $521. So that's a huge savings. Tariffs are deferred. They can be reduced or eliminated if you manipulate the product. And so if you make something out of it and it raises the value, then that tariff goes down. There's been a lot of talk about tariffs, right? Why the heck would you pay a tariff in the United States if you can go to a location where you don't have to pay the tariff? Now, the other benefit is if you ship that product to another country, to a foreign trade zone, it's like going to duty-free shop at the airport. You don't pay a tariff. There's no taxes. Okay, so why would I bring this up today? Because when you import a product that comes in packaging, that packaging becomes waste. There's tariffs on the waste. But if it remains in the foreign trade zone, the tariff is deferred or eliminated, depends on how you use it. So that's a huge savings for a business that's doing imports. If you have a site like I'm going to be talking about, you can actually set it up in a foreign trade zone, and any product that's coming in that's going to create waste or waste would be duty deferred. The other thing is any equipment that you're going to use, if you're buying equipment overseas for recycling, it's going to be deferred. And as long as it stays in that zone and used in that zone, you never pay a tariff on it. So why would you go to a place where you have tariffs when you can go to a place where there are no tariffs? Because I want to hear people stop complaining and just move. That's what my goal is. Okay, actually I just went through the list for you. So some of the other incentives, I think you're familiar with opportunities. I think you're familiar with opportunity zones, and one of the things that's going to be occurring with opportunity zones is that in 3 years they're going to change the maps. It's now going to be next May. So we're going to be able to change the maps, and that's going to be a real benefit for us because our maps are horrible, and we'll be able to include areas where we're seeing a lot of development. North American Development Bank, you notice this map, 100 kilometers north of the border, 300 kilometers south of the border, creates a funding mechanism for grants and loans. And anybody here in the banking industry, North American Development Bank loves to partner. They don't like to do 100% of the project, usually about 40%. They'll come in, they'll do the due diligence, they'll do everything you need, and then look for a bank that will want to partner with a company. And so if anything related to the elimination of greenhouse gas emissions, it could be energy efficiency, recycling, landfills, water treatment. Those are the types of projects they're looking for. Those are the only types of projects they can fund. So think about that. And I'm actually going to a conference in San Antonio in 3 weeks to pitch about 15 projects to North American Development Bank. And then sites, locations. I was having a conversation with some people last night that, is it really too, it's difficult to do business in California? I go, if it wasn't, I wouldn't have a job. But the reality is, yes, it is challenging. My job is to make it less hard. And so there are unique areas. If you hear about air districts, water districts, those types of things, Imperial County is just the opposite. We can move projects forward very quickly. I've done it, and I could give you examples of that. But the key to it is pre-zoned land. You don't have to change zoning. It's already zoned for many industries. This is 3,000 acres of pre-zoned land, and we just built 2.5 million square feet this year. We're building 5 million square feet the next year. It's all zoned for medium and light and medium manufacturing. Here's another site that's medium and heavy manufacturing, and this is about 5,000 acres with about another 3,000 generally planned. The difference is if a company meets the ordinances of this site, the permitting time is very short. I'm talking like literally weeks, not years. And so why? Because most people spend their time going through the zone change. And so what do we have next? Well, if 3,000 acres or 5,000 acres wasn't enough, we're developing 51,000 acres. So this is going to be a specifically planned area. It's going to have energy. It's going really everything. So what we did is we put just anything you could think of, geothermal energy, solar, manufacturing, recycling, biofuels, data centers, you name it. If it needs energy, it can go here. So manufacturing needs energy, it can go here. So it really creates that symbiotic relationship between industries. And this map, or this should be finished within a month or two. We'll have 51,000 acres that we'll be able to market as specifically planned. And then the Lithium Valley, so that 51,000 acres includes this area. This is the most productive site in North America for geothermal energy. Within that geothermal brine is everything on the periodic table, lithium just being one. But we're setting up operations to actually mine. We already have about 500 megawatts of geothermal there, and we could produce over 17 million tons of lithium per year. That's a lot. And we actually, it says the companies that are listed, you're probably familiar with one of them, but we're actually working with about 5 to 7. And then the Mesquite Regional Landfill, this is the last thing I want to talk to you about. Where do you go? Well, we named some sites, but this is a very unique site. This site was built by LA Sanitation, and I thought it was about $45 million, but we heard the other day it was over $100 million to build this. It was designed to be a landfill for Los Angeles, and they would bring trash by rail into the Imperial County. It can handle 5 unit trains per day, and I just want to introduce somebody from Public Works of Los Angeles who helped us make that connection with LA Sanitation. And LA Sanitation is now RFPing this property, which is about, how many acres is this property? Do you remember? How much? 4,600 acres of land. And they just issued an RFP. It's due this Friday. If you guys want to get together and we'll put a request in for this, we could develop a recycled material development zone right there with all the infrastructure in place and the permits in place for landfill. But what we want to do is other things. We want to be able to bring the product in, and then we want to be able to take the materials and repurpose those materials. But it's already set up as landfill and permitted. There's no place like that in the United States. And so let's please talk about that, but as you can see, it's already got the rail infrastructure in place. So there's just a couple things I want to talk about. California is a good place to do business. It's a great market. There are some challenges. My job is to help you with those challenges. If somebody tells you it takes 10 years to do a project, I can tell you I can get it done in a year or two. Okay. One other thing, both with the federal government and the state government, there's been a streamlined process for the NEPA process. With the state government, for the CEQA process, certain industries are going to be exempt from CEQA. And so one of them is anything related to providing power to a data center, we can get an exemption for CEQA. Now, if you go into an area that's already pre-zoned and it does trigger CEQA, then that's going to be relaxed if the power is going to data centers. And key is data centers with AI. Okay, so both state and federal, there's relaxation to that permitting. So that's a little bit about what I do, a little bit about the Imperial Valley. Hopefully